everyone, Captain Starlight here, and I'm so excited because today we're reading Marvel's Spider-Man's Beginnings. Peter Parker was just your average teenager from Queens, New York. He lived with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and he attended Midtown High. Peter was very studious and was considered one of the smartest kids in school. Unfortunately, Peter's good grades didn't make him very popular with some of his classmates. Flash Thompson, the school bully, regularly tormented Peter. One day, Flash pushed him to the ground and Peter's books and papers scattered everywhere. School was tough for Peter, but he was very happy at home. Aunt May and Uncle Ben loved him completely, and Peter wanted nothing more than to make them feel proud of him. One night over dinner, Peter told Aunt May and Uncle Ben that he was thinking about becoming a scientist someday. Science was one of his favourite subjects at school, and Peter loved going to the school lab after class and testing out his new experiments. Uncle Ben told Peter that a career in science would give him great power, but he also reminded him that with great power comes great responsibility. Peter's life changed one day while he was on a school trip to the science hall. He was excited to see real-life scientists at work, but while Peter looked around at the exhibits, a spider passed through some radioactive waves. Peter was so distracted, he didn't see the radioactive spider heading right towards him. The radioactive spider bit Peter. Peter could never have imagined what an impact this one bite would have on his life. He discovered he had spider-like superpowers. Peter worked hard to figure out how to control his new powers. Using his vast knowledge of science, he also made web shooters and practiced shooting them in his bedroom. Peter's super strong webs stuck to every surface. Soon his entire room was covered in webs. Okay, so it's not as easy as it looks, Peter muttered to himself. It took lots of practice and more than one mess up for Peter to learn how to master his newfound skills. But with time and effort, before Peter knew it, he could cling to walls, was super strong, and had spider sense, a strong tingling feeling that alerted him to danger. Peter wanted to keep his identity a secret, so he stayed up all night creating a spider suit and mask. He even stitched a large spider on the front of it. As Spider-Man, Peter was extremely powerful. Like all teenagers, Peter wanted to make money. He needed a job where he could use his powers to his advantage. So Peter became a wrestler. Peter used his strength to beat every opponent he faced. One night, Peter noticed the wrestling gym was being robbed. But instead of stopping the thief, Peter turned a blind eye and let the robber get away. It was a decision that would change his life forever. Later that night, when Peter got home, he saw police cars in front of his house. He raced inside and found out that someone had viciously attacked Uncle Ben. Aunt May and Peter were devastated. The police officers told Peter not to worry because they'd tracked the criminal to an old warehouse. Peter knew he had to take matters into his own hands. He was determined to avenge Uncle Ben. Peter put on his Spider-Man suit and swung through the city. Peter arrived at the warehouse before the police. The thief tried to escape, but Spider-Man shot a large web at him and trapped the crook. Spider-Man looked down at the thief's bag of money. He was sure he'd seen it somewhere before. Peter took a good look at the man and realised that it was the same criminal he had let escape from the wrestling gym. Peter desperately wished he'd stopped the thief. He vowed that from then on, he would help others whenever it was in his power. He would never let anything like this happen again. The next day, Spider-Man heard about another criminal on the loose in Manhattan. Spider-Man swung down to confront the villain. It was Electro. The hero used his web shooters, and after a few tries, the supervillain was defeated. A few nights later, Spider-Man found the supervillain Shocker trying to rob a bank. "Gotcha!" Spider-Man shouted as he webbed Shocker's metal gauntlets and knocked him to the floor. As he swung away, a policeman pulled up to find Shocker trapped on the ground. In that moment, Spider-Man realised it was his destiny to always protect others. And if he worked hard enough, maybe one day he could become a great superhero. Spider-Man thought back to the words that Uncle Ben always used to say, "With great power comes great responsibility." Peter Parker might seem like your normal teenager, but he is the amazing Spider-Man. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope you have a lovely day. Bye.